Studio, and we're into our first game of the night. It's vVv, Vision, Valor, and Victory, taking on Cognitive Gaming in the first competitive League of Legends match in North America being played on patch 3.14. And whether or not there will be a...
Well, as it stands now, it's a bit scarier to invade just because of how much more vision you can get from sitting in a brush and how much safer those brushes are.
Exactly, and with kills actually getting like extremely nerfed gold values in the first 2 to 4 minutes of the game, don't expect to see a lot taken away from level 1s. I feel like just because these teams this is their first first jungle, first level 1 of the new patch, at least competitively, expect to see very similar things to what we did in Season 3, but maybe with a lot less of an effect. If you die early on, you give like 100 gold to the enemy team.
Like maybe looks like the teams have ready back up and we'll be unpausing the game. Look, this will look like a situation, as we've seen before, teams will just get wards on either side of the map, then retreat and do their jungles as necessary, possibly go for a steal, but there shouldn't be too many surprises at the very beginning of this game.
Alright, so while the jungle has been changed, the buffs have not. Well, with the exception of the blue buff that has 10% less cooldown reduction. But yeah, red buff still does red buff things, so you're going to see both teams actually go for a little bit of an invade. And it looks like vVv actually will be sticking around. No, they're walking into a different brush just in hopes that that one is not warded out. And what do you know? They're right. Well, neither bush was really warded. But with a ward placed down there at both teams red by their opponents, everybody's just recalling back to base with the exception Captain Ziploc, who's going to stay out there. And at least from preliminary, I guess research, I don't know if you want to call it research, but Captain Ziploc believes that as far as in the jungle, at least does some stupid damage. So we're going to see how that works on farming things up. But I've actually heard that a lot of times people would just prefer to lane instead of going into jungle just because of the effectiveness of some of these new support itemization. You can even see a couple of those new items there. Relic Shield will actually give you the, that's completely different. Yeah, basic attacks will execute a minion and then give that minion gold to your nearest ally. So it's a nice way that supports can give gold to their AD carries, gives them a lot of extra gold. But on the other side, if you want to take a little bit more of a farm-heavy approach, you can have the Ancient Coin, which you do see there on vVv's God Shoe, which does give you extra gold if you're near a minion that dies without you killing it.
Very different tactics. Of course, they also have different stats on them. Relic Shield aimed more at tankier supports, giving a base HP, rather than the Ancient Coin, which gives more of a Philosopher's Stone style effect. Kassadin in the mid lane has actually run into a 2v1 himself. We used to see this a lot when Kassadin was run, and it became quite a game of chase a Kassadin, because whichever team Kassadin is on, if he's in a 2v1, he gets destroyed in lane. Nothing here, for example, can just get free auto attacks, and Kassadin not going to be that reliable at CSing underneath the turret at level 1 when he doesn't have a point in his Netherblade.
Now, at least for Dr. Mundo, if you're wondering how on earth you build support Mundo, you go 9-21-0, and then you also put some points into... Actually, I think he's going 0-21-9 because he doesn't have any extra armor or magic penetration from the offensive tree. And to be honest, you have to go way far down that tree in order to get to the penetration now, so that's a big change to Season 4 as well. But he does have magic penetration from his marks, so you will be seeing a lot of those cleavers start to come out there. Godshoot now down in the bottom lane, kind of roaming a little bit of everywhere. Kind of leaves Cheese Beluga to the wolves and forces him into a very difficult 2v1, but at the same time will make things a little bit more difficult for iDream's Renekton down in the bottom lane.
Yeah, with that 2v1, this is an okay 2v1. We've seen Renektons in this situation before. The question is going to be, does Captain Ziploc ever roam down and try to back him up, try and get him some more support? It looks like Porpoise Pops has gone for a little bit of an invade, possibly taking the red buff, actually, from Captain Ziploc, who just hadn't taken it recently. Kind of surprising to see that the red buff hadn't been taken by the 4-minute mark, but jungle routes have changed up a bit, especially, as you mentioned, the white now being in the mix. It's hard to predict what people will be doing just because it hasn't been necessarily figured out. Like, there is not a Stonewall guide to the new jungle that is 100% accurate. And as a result, people are kind of trying new things out, which does leave the red buff possibly open for an invade like that.
So double buffs on both junglers, at least for now, and so Captain Ziploc heading down to the right camp, and we'll look to take that out. And to be honest, it's kind of interesting, because if you have a jungler that is purely area of effect, you're going to have a lot of problems with that camp early on. But if you're like a jungle Kha'Zix, say, not only can you get a lot more gold from the jungle, but you can also have a lot faster wave clear time just taking out that Wraith camp, because, of course, it is isolated. Gets Suggled, starting to have some sustain issues up there in the top lane with Zamfira, but with that 21 points into defense, he's going to get a lot more health regeneration from that than you would otherwise expect.
Aggression in the bot lane, Captain Ziploc actually flashing to try and land the stun on the Godshu, but Godshu, in response, flashing himself, so flash for flash. Not a bad situation overall. We've seen this before with Renekton, especially if Renekton the least, because they have about 3 seconds of CC if Renekton does get his raged out Ruthless Predator. Then it's very easy for them to chain burst someone down, factor in the DPS from Elisa's Spiders, then just her raw damage, and it's very easy to pick off, especially a squishy support like Godshu in the bot lane. Really, this game has become, can Caston recover from his early lane shenanigans? He's only at 13 CS, he barely picked it up right now. Tristana's at 33, Mundo's of course pressuring quite a bit, tossing out a lot of cleavers and helping Tristana rack up CS. So it's going to be difficult for Cheese Beluga to do anything. However, he can always try and go to a side lane. They can always try and go for a 4v5 hold and stall style of game, and then just make Caston farm up in the mid game. But just Cheese Beluga is getting destroyed, and there's not much you can do about it. It's a 2v1 lane, and they haven't tried to rotate him towards the bot lane.
Yeah, 16 CS to what is, I guess, his counterpart in Zemfire, who's at 43 right now. And while, yeah, the 1v2 lane has been rough for iDream, he's actually he's actually ahead of Get Snuggled in that CS, so really rough lane for Get Snuggled so far. So Cognitive coming out to a very strong early start. The difference being, of course, in the jungle, where there's only 18 CS for Captain Ziploc, and farming things up in the jungle actually means a little bit more now, especially with the way that the new completed jungle items work. We'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit more when they are actually bought and purchased and in the game. Let's see, it's going to be Snuggled recalling from top lane going to base, but the dual lane now switching mid here for both teams. vVv's Tails and Godshu return, looking to go up against Nothing here and to Zane King. So kind of similar, but it's still kind of interesting to me to see the Dr. Mundo support. I'm not sure how it's quite working out. It's a lot of poke damage, a lot of annoyance for Cheese Beluga, and it has done a good job of shutting him down, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure that's just a Cassidon thing that's really easy to do in a 2v1 early game.
Oh, totally. Cheese Beluga was going to get punished no matter what, even if it had been a melee support like Tarek. They could have applied a lot of pressure. However, Mundo is not so much about the early game, I'm assuming, because his early game damage is decent, but not that great. Like, an Infected Cleaver isn't doing a whole lot of damage, people don't have that much HP to actually use the scaling portion of it, and the scaling is also very low early on. So I'm assuming now that Zane King's level 5, as he gets closer to level 6, level 7, that's when we'll start seeing a lot more roaming come out from Mundo and a lot more damage. They did send Cheese Beluga down to the bot lane. The issue with that is iDream is Renekton that was doing pretty well in the 2v1, so he's got the Giant's Belt, he's got a lot of experience and a lot of gold over Cheese Beluga, and Cheese Beluga is going to have a hell of a time farming down there as well. His only safe lane was going to be versus Zamfira, but Zamfira did hit level 6, does have the advantage, and it would still be rough as well. There just isn't a good place for Cheese Beluga right now.
And that's one of the things that a lot of people have actually noticed. It feels like you're at 30 minutes when you're at like 20, 25 minutes. So the game's going to accelerate a lot more quickly. There's a lot more gold out there just for everyone, just ambiently. So depending on the way that support items work out, the way that junglers jungle and the items that they get, you're going to be seeing some pretty different stuff out of Season 4, which is kind of to be, assumed. Top lane gets Snuggled, gonna get jumped on, bounces away there, does not have additional tenacity, but does have to burn the flash there. Gets Snuggled, gets out alive, was not snuggled adequately enough by Ziploc and Zamfira, and he's actually gonna be able to stay in lane, as it looks like, oh no, Ziploc, Zamfira, they're channeling their end of the alphabet power, waiting there in the last little rush. Gets Snuggled. Please don't use your jump. There's going to be the claw coming out. It's not enough as Gets Snuggled. One more auto attack, and he's taken down into his passive, and now we get to watch the world's most depressing mini-game as the Bloblets. No, Bloblets, please. It's going to go down, and there you go. It is Ziploc taking him out, and it's going to be... Oh, actually, Zamfira drawing first blood for Cognitive Gaming.
That was a little bit greedy from Get Snuggled. At the same time, he has already fallen behind in lane. 53 CS to the 76 as Zamfira is now getting in the top lane. It was one of those situations where Get Snuggled felt he had to take the risk of just going for the farm. In the end, though, now he's very far behind. Tails in a lot of danger, though.
And in the middle lane, Tails will cleanse, flash on out of there, but doesn't even matter as Nothing here blows him away, and underneath the turret, it's a 2 for nothing off of incredibly strong rotational dive there. iDream, Nothing here, and Zane King looking to take down the first turret of the game as well, as this early game just getting crushed by Cognitive. Porpoise Pops just forced to hold the lane, while Cognitive look on towards Dragon.
this will be a fairly safe dragon. Porpoise Pop can go for the seal, but in the end, this is going to be, running in his Udyr, which with the Infected Cleaver, that's a really good sustained CC that actually will keep him in place and keep him very killable. Porpoise Pops is moving forward though, goes for the flash, gets it!
Oh my god, Porpoise Pops, the smiting, successful, gets the dragon, but now is going to go down. But the thing to notice is that Dragon actually only gives local experience, and then the global gold is kind of split weirdly as well. So you have to watch out if you do go for steals onto big objectives. Not only is your smite a lot weaker, so it's a lot easier to miss it, but also, there's the fear onto Captain Ziploc in the middle. 1v3 Ziploc, gonna go down. Tails there to pick up the kill. So the smite steal away, it was nice and everything, but at the same time, you actually need all of your members there to be able to get the full benefit from that, and the same thing for turrets.
In the end, it's not so much, all right, I'm going to get the dragon, we're going to equal out the gold, I might die in response, it'll be cool with that. It's more about denying the experience and the gold that would have gone all the way to Cognitive, and that would have been a lot of experience and, full amount of gold, not a huge amount, probably evened out by the kill. But still, it's about denying that experience, which isn't as readily visible. Still, though, I'm liking how the team has progressed. Zamfira, combined especially with Elise and Renekton, is such a good dive combination. That's why that rotation was so powerful, because with the initiation from Renekton, with the initiation from Elise, it doesn't matter who starts the fight, the follow-up in terms of single-target CC is amazing. However, they do have to watch out on Cognitive. They don't have a lot of AoE CC. They can stun on... They have 3 stuns. But in terms of AoE CC, it's going to be the Buster Shot knockback, which is, of course, completely unreliable to use on a large group of enemies, and the root from Zamfira, which is also not that great, because Zamfira will have to be in the middle of the fray, can ult, but it's one of those things that you're probably not going to get multiple times in a team fight.
Cocoon will miss there onto Porpoise Pops as Captain Ziploc kind of trying to flank around the turret. Middle turret, very, very low health. It's just going to take a couple more auto attacks from Nothing here to take it down. He's going to go in for it, grabs it with 1. That will be the second turret of the game for Cognitive. Now, Porpoise Pops in the jungle trying to farm things up, does have that Spirit of the Ancient Golem. And if you want to look as far as itemization for junglers, you're probably going to be seeing that a lot. Even though it's been nerfed, you do get a lot of gold from that conservation passive. If you stack it up from like holding lanes or from going for more extended ganks, you can see that paying off for both of the junglers. Supports still with the least gold in the game, but at the same time, when you look at like Zane King has 2,300 gold. Oh, Porpoise Pops very low under turret fear onto Captain Ziploc. It's gonna go back. I hope so. Yeah, makes it out alive. And there's gonna be the Rift Walk in silence, not in time to stop the rocket jump away for Nothing here as Cognitive look to disengage.
He could move forward, but it's going to be risky. He would be going into 3 members, and they might be able to burst him down despite the magic resist on Cassidy. And you're right, the supports still have the least amount of gold, but the difference is now they're no longer spending all of their money on items such as oracles. Very specifically, they're not chugging oracles non-stop and being broke as a result. So they should actually be able to build items, which compared to the past, a huge, huge difference. Something neat actually is... if you don't know this, some of the summoner or the item icons have actually been updated. So there's a ruby crystal on Godshoe right now, and a sunflower cape on Renekton, in case you don't recognize the icons.
But yeah, there are some new icons out there, and actually pretty cool. I think Archangel's Staff also got a new icon there, so don't expect it to be like Seraph's Embrace and just with a new look. You got mid lane push there by Zane King. Nothing here. Gonna take down this middle turret. No reaction at all as the battle over the blue buff. Probably less important than defending your second tier middle turret. And as the push continues, flash forced out there by Godshoe. There's a crow back away and will back away himself. Now pings down onto the top turret for Cognitive. They're just pushing this game out extremely early on. We were privy to the 4-minute turrets that Cloud9 kind of made popular in LCS this season. And after getting patched a little bit and giving them extra armor, you don't see that all that often. But we're 13 minutes into the game, Studio, and there's 4 turrets down for Cognitive.
And this is how they have to play. Their team fight, like compare the team fight that vVv would have. Imagine if they were on equal gold and just something broke out. You'd have Get Stungled starting off the fight. Tails could follow that up with his ultimate. The Chains of Corruption would be huge when factoring in the slow from Cassidy, as well as just Godshoe with his 3-second fear. So I really like this playstyle from Cognitive because their team fight, it is possibly good. They can burst down the right targets very quickly, but it's not reliably good compared to something like a Zac initiation or a Chains of Corruption initiation, though that is probably one of the most missed ultimates in the game. So they're playing this well, they're playing this forwardly and aggressively because they know A, they can duel right now, and B, they have to, just to avoid those team fights.
All right, well, we're about to see Nothing here iDream and Zane King's Dr. Mundo go where they please all throughout this jungle. It gets snuggled, try to give that gold over to Porpoise Pops. He does take it down, and we'll get some extra conservation stacks from that. He currently has 43 stacks of that, which will directly transfer into gold because that's the way that the new buff works. But when you're forced to give buffs away to your laners, it actually prevents you from getting conservation stacks for a while. So I'll have to see if that impacts Porpoise Pops, as he's almost maxed out with 53 stacks there. You can only get a maximum of 40, I believe. 40 gold for those stacks. So he's in the jungle. You can see a lot more gold actually really affecting both of these junglers. They're sitting at about 4,000, 4,400 for Captain Ziploc, who is still building tanky, but you should still see a lot faster itemization. There's actually going to be the teleport onto the mid lane ward as Zenfire goes in there. Tails in a lot of trouble, blown apart. The DFG not even necessary as Zenfire teleports in for a kill.
I was gonna say they might actually go for a rotation towards Baron, but Baron hasn't even spawned yet. They're already pushing down the mid inhibitor turret. They're gonna have to defend this on vVv. They're gonna send back Casson and possibly send back Zach, but they might be a little bit too late. Luckily, there aren't minions quite there, so it's gonna be about a 15-second window for vVv to group up and just get ready for the defense. Still, though, this constant rotation, this constant aggression. Actually, Porpoise Pop's gonna be stopping the recall bot lane. Maybe. Looks like he's actually safe.
What a man, just sitting there in the brush, doesn't even care about the Renekton. He's like, you guys go farm your minions, I'm out. And it is going to be the 4-man rotation with a little bit of advanced guard there from iDream coming in from behind, which would actually be the opposite of an advanced guard. But you get the idea. He's going to come in 5 men strong from Cognitive down there in the bottom lane. Nothing here takes a turret shot, but we'll be able to dish out a lot more damage. Cocoon lands on to get Snuggle, stops his initiation, turret down to half health. It's going to be up to vVv to initiate this.
They gotta start the fight soon if they wanted to start anything at all. Zamfira does not have the ultimate up. That would be huge. However, they're also nervous. They know they're behind. iDream level 11, Zamfira level 11. So they're up against 2 people with the next rank of their ultimates. And that's scary to go into when you haven't reached that threshold yet. Cheese Beluga only level 9. Nothing here is low, though. They could go for this team fight. They're gonna have to start something up soon, but the question is, can Zach actually get the initiation off without giving it away? He's going for it, though.
Right in on to Zane King, gets a double knockup, but immediately Cocoon, we are going to see the Let's Bounce there on to Zane King, who will unfortunately fall down. It's going to be ulted from Gaju, but just everyone getting blown apart. So much area of effect control. Zamfira, and then at the end it was iDream popping the Zach Bloblets. He's going to go down. Ziploc to grab the kill, and it's a 3-for-1. Only Zane King lost for Cognitive Gaming.
I mean, Zane King goes down, but he is a squishy support despite being a Mundo that has just purchased a Giant spell. Definitely look at some of these Mundo support changes. Unfortunately, they went for the team fight. They did catch out 2 members on the Zac ultimate, but who was it? Zane King, who was relatively squishy, and iDream, who is not relatively squishy. And as a result, they spent a lot of damage, a lot of CC on the front line, and frankly, you compare that to Captain Ziploc, who is tanky himself, but does a lot of damage, Zamfira, and nothing here in the back line. Like, they did chase out nothing here for a bit, but in the end, the DPS from the backline was just too strong and too much was used on the front line. Still, though, great response, great counter initiation from Cognitive, just going for the squishy targets, aggressive play from Zamfira. I really, really enjoy Zamfira when he gets Alessandra, because he always plays it A, hyper aggressively, and B, it usually turns out well too. Like, sometimes he'll barely miss that kill, but it's only by 100 or so HP max.
And he also goes for kind of like the Chris-style Lissandra, where you build the Deathfire Grasp before your Zhonya's Hourglass. So we are going to see that, and it's been incredibly effective. Just tons of burst damage. 203 his score here tonight. Another good thing to keep an eye out, it's kind of like checking up NASA's Siphoning Strike stacks, is where the gold is coming from the new itemization for junglers and supports. You can see Relic Shield giving Dr. Mundo an additional 523 gold so far. And then you can also see the Nomad's Medallion, but there's actually a bounce in Ana. Nothing here. Don't want to see that. Yeah, Nomad's Medallion, a total of 562 gold gained from that. But Cognitive push down the bottom lane, pushing down middle as well, forcing the retreat there from vVv as Horse of Sops going to be running away a little bit. Zenfire all the way through the wall. Did not know you could put your Ice Claw in the wall and pop out the other side. Horse Pop's going to be on the run, but Zenfire, he's okay with that. Doesn't have teleport up just yet, but I think Cognitive are actually okay with that after pushing in both bottom, mid, now looking towards top.
Have all their ultimates available again. Zenfire is going to be the longest cooldown, which is only down to about 90 seconds because of that Deathfire Grasp. Still, they know that when they have their ultimates up, they can very easily trade and fight. Looks like we're going to have a tower race. Renekton is going back to base. We might have a base race. This might be the desperation move from vVv. It's going to be 4v4. The second turret does go down. The first turret does go down as well for vVv. Looks like Cognitive just don't care. They're just going to keep pushing. They know they have the advantage. They know have the damage, and they know they're closer, so they would win the base race.
There's going to be the top turret going down. It's a one-way base race, Studio, as there's going to be an inhibitor falling pretty quickly as long as vVv can't initiate. They're trying to get damage down, but they just don't deal enough. iDream wailing on it will get taken down very low. There's a less bounce in the middle of everything from Get Snuggled. Crowstorm to come in from Gachu and Cheese Beluga, trying to get the damage down from behind, but gets just locked up there by Zamfira. iDream will go down, and it's now the round from vVv as they now look to catch on to Captain Ziploc. Throws a cocoon, will catch on a Cheese Beluga. Rest in pieces. There's going to be a piercing arrow coming backwards. The reset on the jump. Tails will be forced to flash away. That is ultimately a 1-for-1 exchange, but an inhibitor for Cognitive.
Fantastic pressure from Cognitive. They knew they had the advantage that A, they were closer, B, they had more damage, and C, they were going to very easily be able to pick off vVv if they did go for the long extended engage. And when they finally went for it, it's actually Gachu not quite going to be able to catch somebody out. They'll all make it back, Zanking the last guy out of there, but still safely out of range. When that fight really broke out, everything was kind of focused on the iDream, and iDream still went in. He knew that as long as his team got damage down, they didn't even need to pick up kills. They just had to get some damage down onto vVv. They could very easily pick up, clean the inhibitor, and just get 1 or 2 more kills if needed. If not, they have an inhibitor down before the 20-minute mark, and they still get massive control of the game.
Now, it's a whole new world, Studio, and in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. There's only going to be an quote-unquote eye. Well, I guess there's the scrying orb, which is kind of like an eye because it's like clairvoyance on Gachu. But Captain Ziploc, the only person with a quote-unquote oracles, now that it has been relegated to that greater lens, should be changed down here in just a second. Double wards they're placed in the red buff side brush, and Cognitive, they're just like, no, I don't think you understand it. They're definitely in maximum Demoy status. It's going to be the red buff taken away by Captain Ziploc, who does get out of there with a nice steal. Now, something else to notice is that with the top inhibitor down, vVv will have to protect their base for now, and it's not necessarily about support, it's about junglers getting more gold, as basically everyone on Cognitive are going to have full run of the map, able to pick up gold wherever they can find it.
Yeah, so Zanking not going for the penetration build. I mean, he might go for it eventually. It would be fun to see. Just going for the outright tankiness. And Mundo, just with his base stats and base skills, if he gets a little bit of tankiness, he's still very difficult to kill, just because of the massive regeneration you do get from the sadism. Now, what's going to be tricky here for Cognitive is that, well, there is still the turret to back them up. They don't have a numbers advantage necessarily. They don't have a pressure advantage. So what they're going to do is they're going to send Zamfira down to the mid lane, and he can just push that in. If necessary, he can actually teleport bot despite it being a short distance, but initiation is coming out from Get Snuggled. Nope.
No, okay.
He was stretching. He was going for the jump. It's like, maybe this will be suicide. We'll back on that for a sec.
Yeah, probably best to avoid that. Doesn't have a Spirit Visage yet. It's 21 minutes into the game against Zamfira that's just been blowing everyone apart. 2-0-4. And while, yes, iDream and Nothing Here are very strong, you probably are still going to need that. A lot of damage coming down as I want to say Nothing Here. He's incredibly strong right now. Infinity Edge and Azil looking for a Phantom Dancer. Are we going to see the engagement we're looking for? It's actually going to be Cheese Beluga Gets Snuggled bouncing all over Zamfira. They're going to take it out, but can they make it out alive? Gets Snuggled will be forced to flash over the wall immediately. The flash there from Nothing Here. Flash here from Nothing Here. And it's going to be nothing available for Get Snuggled. He's going to try to walk away, and then we'll be able to jump over the wall. Oh my goodness. Nothing Here actually turns around. Now it's iDream ulted up, gets sniped out by Tails in maximum range. Ziploc now the one to run away, but you cannot run from an Udyr. It's the shutdown by Cheese Beluga on to Nothing Here, and vVv fired back. They're gonna get the scrying orb just to scout out where Ziploc are. The flash in, flash out from Ziploc, and he will make it back to his turret safely. Porpoise Bob's gonna go for the dive. Plenty of damage to come in, and Ziploc taken out underneath his own turret. A 4-for-0 exchange, 4-for-1 exchange there for vVv.
I mean, in the end, Cognitive just stuck around too long. They split themselves up. Zamfira was off to the side, and once Zamfira got caught out, Cognitive, immediately went back to back her up, except for Zanking and iDream, who got caught out by vVv in response. So it was 3 separate fights going on across the map at the same time. One was just Cognitive trying to back up their team, though, and in the end, they got caught out. They have the gold advantage, they have item advantage, but it doesn't really matter if you're ending up in a 2v1 or a 3v2. So now that they've kind of been caught out, they're still ahead. They're still ahead by about 4,000 gold. Definitely a lot of money, though, going towards vVv there. However, if Cognitive can group up, if they can still pressure down the top inhibitor, they should be okay. That is a big opening, though, because it's actually Varus has picked up a Sword of the Occult, currently has 0 stacks, unfortunately, but that is a desperation move. If they can try and get just 1 or 2 more pickoffs, especially with that Sword of the Occult, vVv can very easily swing back into this game.
Something else to point out there, this is not bronze, it is in fact an all-challenger affair, but the ward coverage on the map is extremely lacking. Nothing on the bottom half of the map is all, but that is because, hey, there's pressure around the Baron area, and there's actually a surprising amount of wards now that you only get 3, and of course 1 pink ward there as well, but now we're going to see the Rift Walk out from Cheese Beluga, trying to stop this push in from Cognitive. Very, very strong, but once again, nothing here. Just getting sniped out by Tails Varus. And Varus, he actually just feels incredibly strong right now. I'm not sure if there are like changes on PBE or anything like that, but having just the ability to chunk out the AD carry forces Cognitive to back off for now. And even though the first inhibitor of the game was lost by vVv, they're actually the ones pushing out of the base. Have to watch out for this engage by Cognitive. They do reveal themselves coming out from behind. Cocoon will miss. Not sure where that was going, but with cleavers to fly out. Cognitive looking at Pincer there. No stun on to Tails, who will throw out the Chains of Corruption. There's going to be the initiation of an immediate cleanse flash out from Tails. It's Fire, the first to die. Cognitive now in a 4v5. Nothing here, getting jumped on, will jump away. Trying to re-enter the fight, gets hit by a Crow Silence out there. Still able to dish out damage, has to watch out from being sniped away. But now Zane King's gonna go down in the middle of the fight. It's a triple kill for Cheese Beluga. vVv turning the fight around. Scrying Orb will catch out Captain Ziploc as he is forced to back away. Very low health, nothing here, has to be very careful as well, as after an incredible team fight, a 3-0 vVv. Definitely living up to the last V in their name. Victorious in the team fight, taking out the second tier mid turret. Now turn their attention on towards Baron.
I mean, that was a fantastic defense from vVv. They saw the members moving forward from Cognitive. Once again, it comes down to the single target CC that the team does have. So once Captain Ziploc missed his stun, once Idre moved forward, they knew that as long as Varus could survive Zemphira, which he did with the Cleanse Flash, he was going to be perfectly fine. So they waited for Cognitive to go all in. Actually, teleport in from Zemphira though. Can he pick anything up?
No, it's going to be the Baron actually taken by Tails. Zemphire, without a lot to offer into that team fight, didn't even have his ultimate available. Still 5 seconds left on Frozen Tomb. So that is going to be a Baron buff for vVv. They are very, very low. vV very low, and they're gonna make it back to their pace alive. We'll have to heal up because Cognitive, they could have looked to just press in after that big objective and try to take down an inhibitor, but wisely not overextending, are just gonna go for a much more passive approach at pushing out the side lanes. Keep in mind, nowadays, when you lose an inhibitor in Season 4, it only affects that individual lane, and you're actually able to see vVv, like we mentioned, push out of their base almost immediately after losing that inhibitor without feeling a lot of repercussions because, hey, only one lane gets stronger, only one lane has super minions, and I was really interested to see how that would affect the game, and it did look like, hey, vVv, they had a good chance at coming back, did so. Now up in kills, up in gold, just about by 500. Still need to work on the turret count, though.
They're not up by a significant amount of gold, but they've recovered. This is the important about this, because generally, if a team is significantly far behind and they start taking control of the game, it means that there is some mistake or some flaw in the team comp of the enemy team that's let them come back. And in this case, Cognitive keep going for these team fights, but the problem is, the first one, they were just out of position. The second one, they can't really focus anybody down. The kiting and defense from vVv is too powerful. They're trying to dive past an Udyr. They're trying to dive past a Zac, and Udyr can play very defensively with the bear stance. He's actually very good at peeling for teammates. Zac can kind of do the same thing. He can also move forward aggressively if necessary for vVv, but the way they've been playing it, it's all been more on the backtrack. Protect the Varus because he does a lot of damage. Protect Cheese Beluga because, well, he's been pretty squishy this game, but finally has 622, has a lot of kills and a lot of items behind his name now. I mean, Cognitive aren't out of this yet, but they have to play more of a pickoff game. They had the team fight because they had the gold advantage, but now that they've lost it, they just got to keep going for pickoffs, keep going for those one-on-ones, but they don't have a lot of wards down. A lot of that is due to the fact that, well, now it can't just be the support buying wards, but without that ward coverage, it's going to be really hard for them to find out that stray member and pick them off.
Even harder, like you mentioned, to clear out the ward coverage, because now you either have to waste a pink ward or have that greater lens to be able to clear them out, and with no greater lens on Cognitive, they're actually not going to be able to clear out wards unless they put down a pink. Now, pink wards, vision wards are actually only 100 gold, so 25 cheaper. And that's cool and everything, but keep in mind you can only have one out at a time. So if you look at the ward coverage, this is actually really cool to see how, because you're limited to a certain amount of wards, that actually only affects one isolated area of the map. if this were Season 3, you'd see wards almost absolutely everywhere. But now, it's really only ward coverage where the team actually are to set up. So let's see if that helps out Cognitive, as they could look to make picks off of different ward coverages. Now it is a little bit more difficult to clear them out.
Imagine it before there would have been wards, and those wards would have stuck around, of course, because the support could have kept placing just massive amounts of wards, which means that when he comes back later, the support would still have his own wards there to back him up. But now let's say the support ward's top, the jungler ward's bottom lane. If the support tries to move to bot, he really can't put those wards down without giving a vision, and it's a lot riskier to go for extended ward coverage, which really makes the game a lot less predictable. Actually, Cheese Beluga does go forward onto Zane King. Of course, it is support Mundo, so he can't really turn around on his own. Though he does have Spirit Massage and a Giant's Belt, so it's going to be very tanky regardless. You know, the Dragon has secured a lot of experience going towards vVv, and the gold advantage now about 2.5k in their favor.
We do have the Talisman of Ascension studio completed there for Godshoe. He's earned a total of almost 1,000 gold off of that here at the 30-minute mark. So definitely a very, very gold efficient item. It's kind of like the Shurelia's Reverie, because when you do use the active, it gives nearby allies 40% movement speed for 3 seconds. So that's what you're looking for from that Talisman. Still just the Relic Shield there on a Zane King, so somewhat unupgraded. Does have that Spoils of War passive once again that will I think that actually, yeah, it kills a minion and heals the nearest ally for 50 health, granting them the kill and extra gold. So it's actually kind of a double-edged sword. Well, not sword in the passive sense, because it helps you farm, it gives the gold over to your carry, and it helps heal them up at the same time. I didn't actually pay too much attention to that over the lane phase, but it does look like it has only given away 700 gold to Zane King, so a little bit less there than, of course, the Talisman of Ascension on to Godshoe. And I just mentioned that because it's cool to see how the new itemization works, because I think it's a little bit new to us all.
Yeah, I would really love to see Mundo actually finish and upgrade the Relic Shield to its max level, because at that point you get an active. The active, pretty neat. You can sacrifice 20% of your max HP, or current HP, to give a shield that's 10% of your max HP that explodes into 10% of your max HP. Lots of percentages and max HP being thrown around a lot, but essentially you get a really good defensive shield that explodes for pretty decent damage as well, which it will actually be very effective just because Zane King has built up so much HP, as Get Snuggle is going to make sure that white gets initiated on, that white has successfully been taken out.
Oh my goodness, that guy didn't even see it coming. He was just like hopeless. I don't know if we need to start playing some Celine Dion, but that guy was not around for very long. And we're going to see a wave clear come out there. Interesting to see from Tails, not only with 3 stacks on his Sword of the Occult, he went for a Ionian Boots of Lucidity and a Spirit Visage for max CDR, just to throw out as many piercing arrows as he possibly could. So I mean, there's the Legolas build, and then there's the Tails build, with the Bloodthirster Last Whisper now going into Sword of the Occult for even more damage to stack up off of a max CDR 80 carry. When's the last time you saw an 80 carry capped out on CDR, Studio?
Does not happen a whole lot, but you know what? Varus is a great target for it, just because he does have that piercing arrow spam and has a lot of sustained CC in terms of slows as well from the hail of arrows. A very, very cool pick as Arjun moves forward, looking for possibly a poke off, a little bit of damage, can't really secure anything. I mean, vVv, they're set up for this dive. The turret going to be down to about 1,500 HP after the next push, possibly less. And if they get it low enough to where they can kill it while diving, then you're just going to see Cognitive just roll over.
Rift walk out by Cheese Beluga. No initiation there off of the Glacial Path for Zamfira. And you can see Get Snuggled has a pink ward right beside him. No vision, could look to engage over the wall. Tries to jump in onto iDream, but unable to find the knock-up cocoons. Continuing to come out from Ziploc, but no engage just yet, as both of these teams just kind of content to sit around there. Get Snuggled, caught out just a little bit. More snipes to come out over the wall. Tails will aggro the white there and force to take him out mercilessly, but a nice turret defense there for Cognitive.
Definitely staying alive, which is not an easy thing to do necessarily. His top turret does go down, though. This could be the team fight, though.
Oh, Cheese Beluga taking it down to about half HP. Force the Zhonya's out there before the fight's even half over. Zane King in the back, continuing to dish out some cleaver damage, but it's really being all that big of an effect. Tanking up 3 members right now. The Crow Storm engages. Cognitive just falling apart. vVv very, very, very low, but still surviving a 1-for-3 exchange.
Question is, will they go for the push? Tristana still has a lot of HP. They do have Tells available to the side, but completely out of mana, so it looks like Cognitive actually do hold the turret. That's the one good thing for this. However, I mean, they're just getting torn apart in team fights. The initiation from Zach, the constant CC and peel, and now that the zone is actually nothing here, in a lot of danger though.
Oh, Porpoise Bob's actually running through the turret, forces the flash, even though a couple more auto attacks would have killed him. Porpoise Bob stays alive. At the end of that fight, Tails with 7 stacks on Sword of the Occult.
I mean, he's building up, he's getting stronger. That was a desperation move, but now it's a snowball item, and his team has built up so much of an advantage. Like, who do they kill? If they go for Tails in the back, we've seen that he can just flash out of the initiation from Zamfira, which means that Renekton's going to have trouble getting to him, which means that Captain Ziploc doesn't have a reliable way to stun him. So he flashes out, cleanses out, he's safe, and he also has a Visage to block a lot of Zamfire damage. If Cheese Beluga is initiated on, same thing from before, he's got the Zonias, he's got the Seraph's Embrace, he doesn't go down. The Udyr and Zac, definitely not viable targets, and actually Godshu doing a great job. He did die in that last fight, but for the most part, he's kind of staying back waiting on his ultimate until it's safe for him to really deal damage. He has purchased Emerald Nomicon, so that ult actually does deal about 250 damage a second, or about 1250 for the full duration, so Fiddlestick's dealing a lot of damage right now. It's just, they don't have a good target, they don't have good CC to get to the good targets, and it's just going to be so difficult for Cognitive to do anything but catch someone off right now. The team fight from vVv is just amazing. This is a really good team fight team, because Beluga can stay alive to both Riftwalk in and Riftwalk out with the backup of Udyr and Zac, and Tails, especially when you factor in that there's going to be a Fiddlesticks nearby, giving him some pure high fives. It's just going to be completely safe with that cleanse.
Okay, now a couple of things to notice as far as differences between now and Season 3. With all the pink wards out there, you can have 1 pink ward per member of your team, so everybody's got to share the warding love out. And you can see 2 pinks at the Baron there for vVv, with 1 out for Cognitive. If this were Season 3, you see, oh my goodness, there's the deep engage, Zamfira ulting himself as vVv just walk away from it. Now looking to turn that around, it's going to be Let's Bounce there from Get Snuggled on to Nothing Here, takes him down to half hit points. Get Snuggled very, very low, does have the Doom from Deathfire Grasp, but it's Porpoise Pops just almost unkillable, gets in, gets out, so much area of effect damage, all of Cognitive extremely low. Can Tails clean this up? Doesn't find 1 kill, looking for another. Where are those stacks? There's going to be 1 more, 2 more actually, as he takes out Zamfira. Nice scrying orb over the wall. Porpoise Pops versus Captain Ziploc. Is it going to go his way? I don't think so. Can Ziploc turn it around? No, Tails turning it around. Grabs another 2 stacks, and Zane King over the wall will get taken out by Get Snuggled. Getting snuggled, and there's an iDream, the only member left alive for Cognitive, as Tails finishes the fight with 11 stacks on Sword of the Occult.
Tails is doing 400 damage per auto attack. I mean, Sword of the Occult is not a good item, but when it works, it works. His DPS is insane. He's got a maxed out Bloodthirster and another BF sword to back that up. They're going to shred through that inhibitor turret. They're going to shred through that inhibitor. iDream is hanging around saying, I'm alive. I mean, don't push the Nexus turrets, but he can't do anything else to help his team. I mean, the team composition from vVv had such a rough time in laning, but now that they survived the laning phase, now that Baron's actually up again, they might just go for a quick Baron because Tails will just shred right through it. But now that they're grouped up, their team comp is just so efficient at protection, at offense. Like, how do you kill Varus? How do you kill Cheese Beluga?
Oh, teleport in. Zamfira's going to try to answer your question there, Studio. Gets feared out immediately. Taken out before he can even do anything. Gets in there, goes down while the Baron has been halted for now. Nothing here could be more stacks for Varus. Tails up to 15. Looking to max that out at 20. Slow on to iDream. This is actually going to be the ult in from Godshu. He is going to use that Shirelia's effect from the Tails, from the Orb of Ascension. There's going to be Zane King trying to run away as 4-0. Zane King pieces out. I'm not sure if that's just going to be something to pause for, but either way should be getting him back into the game. There's a 3-0 surrender vote as Cognitive. They've had enough. Cleanse goes out for Tails, finishes the game with a total of 16 stacks of Sword of the Occult. vVv, after a rough early game, getting shoved in almost everywhere, come back, even it up in turrets, take away a Baron, win a couple team fights, and we'll take out Cognitive in the first match of the night here at NACL.